Thank you for listening to Hustle and Heart. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub. Today we have the pleasure of talking to Ming-Hun Chung and James Kim, co-founders of Minhwa Spirits, distilling in Doraville, Georgia. Hey, gentlemen, I'm going to let you divide and conquer. I'd love to hear your bios and how you came together and launched this brand.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having us on. I really appreciate the love you guys are sharing with us. My name is James Kim, co-founder of Minhwa Spirits with my friend Ming Han Chung. Like Edie said, we're distilled here in Doraville, Georgia. A little background about us. Me personally, I was born and raised in Atlanta. I lived here my whole life. I love Atlanta. It is home to me. Ming and I actually met in technically elementary school at Berkeley Lake Elementary many years ago. But we definitely reconnected in middle school, high school, and Duluth High School. We went to tech together. We were roommates actually for a year. And so we've always been, friends for a long time. We've always been sort of, talking about life and business and things of that sort. And one of the ideas that we just kind of came up with, or Ming kind of came up with, is, what kind of business can we look at that might actually make sort of an impact long term? Like I mentioned, elementary school being a long time ago, we both have families now. And so we would just kind of kick around ideas of, what can we do that, maybe our children, our families, our community can be proud of. And we decided to look into distilling Korean spirits. The more we looked into it, we decided, this is actually something we should probably really pursue. It might be a good avenue for us. And thus, Minhwa Spirits was born.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Atlanta the second largest Korean population in the US?
It might be now. So it's grown even in the last few years since the pandemic started. I think when we first were looking at stats, when we were kind of like analyzing the business case, maybe we're around something around the sixth. And then the other year when I was looking at it, we're at the third. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're the second now. And that's one of the reasons why we decided we'll work here too, because the Korean population has grown so large in Georgia over the last few years and has also contributed so much to the community. And part of Minhwa Spirit's goal and mission is to also like be a bridge and also help promote everything, all the amazing stuff that the Korean American community has done here over the last years that they've been here.
Well, I'm very curious. Where did you find inspiration? Who is the mentor in this journey for you in going into distilling?
So I can take part of this, and James, you can. Sorry, James, and we can go from there. So it's been like a multi-part journey. Because like James said, we had an initial idea, hey, let's do this, right? After researching, and this is, for another podcast, but the history of Seoul and Soju was such a amazing story that at that point, we felt like we had to do this, right? And then when we were thinking about how to build this, there are many influences in terms of like us, hey, because this person's doing this or the way they're doing this and it's working, I think it's time that this type of company can work. And off the top of my head, Alice at Hanamakali, she's been making traditional makgeolli for a few years now, and the knowledge that she's been giving out on podcasts and interviews and everything has been amazing. James actually met her the other year, and she was extremely, gracious and time, and spent some time talking to him about it. The episode I mentioned this because is a big thing. There was an episode of Lisa Ling's Takeout series on Korean American contributions in the community in the US. And when I saw that, I felt like, oh wow, the people on there really represents like what being Korean American and Asian American are, right? And then I feel like the population is ready for a company that really embraces that and helps promote that too. Locally, we've had Koji at Savannah Distribution. He's the head of Asian Spirits there. He's been extremely helpful in just giving us advice on how to build a company and not kind of go wrong early on and what direction we can go. Jiyoung Lee, she's the chef at Heirloom Barbecue. She met us when we literally had nothing yet and spent time in talking to us. And, I've always heard that she's been a really gracious person, and it's absolutely 1000% true. And she's helped us and introduced us along the way. And there's a lot of other, and James, I think you probably have some others in mind too, especially your family.
Yeah, the very first thing we did was reach out to my uncle in Korea. The family house that my dad was born in, I remember going there when I was younger, and they actually built this little shed on the side of the house. And they had these big tubs of makgeolli, which is the traditional Korean rice drink. It's kind of hard to classify. But I remember going there, and he'd been making it for years and years. And I reached out to him to get the quote unquote family recipe. as our starter, and got some tips from him to kind of get this process going. But it's been interesting because there's not a guide out there for anyone to be saying, I want to start a distillery in Georgia or a brewery in Georgia making this product. What are the steps to do it? There is a lot of information out there, but it's very disjointed. You kind of have to gather it together. We went through the process, just Ming and I just plugging along, trying to do some stuff. And it's funny because, when you maybe have what we think are good intentions, noble intentions, doing what we do, maybe the universe has a way of just putting people in your life, in your path, that can kind of help and guide you. And it's been interesting because we've had a number of individuals, like Ming mentioned, that we just shoot our shot on Instagram, just shoot a cold DM, and they're like, oh cool, it's neat, let's go meet at this bakery, let's go do this, and then they just become friends of ours. And so it's been kind of cool, just a number of people just kind of appearing in our journey to help us along, and we're thankful for that.
Good karma, it goes around, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you alluded a little bit, right? I mean, I was going to ask next, what is your biggest challenge to date, and how have you overcome it? It sounds like you said, there's no playbook. So trying to navigate that path is, part of it, but I'm sure that you've come across some others too.
Yeah, I don't know that you can say that we've actually overcome them. I think we're still overcoming a lot of things. The process to just even get legally certified to even make a drop of alcohol is a long one. It took us probably over, like a year and a half, start to finish, of the first application to when we could officially make it without going to jail. And so, there's different levels of the federal, state, local that you kind of have to go through. And a lot of it is just plugging along, trying to talk to the right people. Thankfully, we've gotten all of our licenses, so we can, rest assured that hopefully we're not going to jail for making our spirits. So that's one. And then I think really for us is sort of the company that we're trying to do, and sort of the ethos of what we're trying to do is the products that we're trying to make are a more traditional Korean alcohol. There's a long history of alcohol and spirits in Korea that have been going on for thousands of years. And the modern interpretation of Korean alcohol is what we feel is not a true representation of what Korean history and alcohol can and should be. And so we've been sort of fighting an uphill battle in terms of educating people on why we're doing things the way that we're doing, why we're using certain ingredients, why we're doing certain processes, just to kind of tell people that, hey, there's a super long history of alcohol in Korea, and we're just trying to honor that tradition for the modern palate, right? And so it's an ongoing challenge, but we're up to it, and it's been kind of fun to go out there and spread the word.
That'll be also so much more fun when you're opening your speakeasy later this year, that you have a forum and a space to educate people on you're taking the brand versus how it's being made today.
Yeah, and that's one of the goals of the space. Not only is it a space to give that first touch to the customers and the whole experience of like, this is what Korean alcohol can be and is, but also it's going to be acting as I talked about community before, as almost like a small pseudo community center for the community to teach and learn and communicate with each other, with the greater community. So yeah, that's all part of the education of it. Because again, if you look at the history of Korean alcohol, it's pretty amazing.
Well, yes, like you said, probably a whole nother podcast just to hear the story of it, because I'm sure it's fascinating. So what was your eureka moment when you guys were putting all of this together, contemplating going in the route of distilling? What was kind of the catalyst that made you realize this is it?
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't any one necessarily, poignant event or anything that kind of triggered it in terms of what we can do and what we should be doing. Really, I think when Ming and I were really just doing our initial research into the potential project, it was just, again, finding out that history of Korean spirits and alcohol and just sort of what we see in today's market. And it wasn't really more of like, okay, there's this action that we can do. It was more of like a calling, if we can call it that. Just say like, hey, I feel, as a Korean American that we should do this to, kind of spread some of the information, history, and the quality of what we could probably provide. And it became more of like it doesn't really matter how long it takes to get the permits, however long it takes. Ming and I, there are many nights when we've been at the distillery at like midnight, 1 a.m. trying to load up our ferments, bottling. My hands are all like always beat up, and everything like that. But as long as we just kind of thought of, what, like long term, what is the game here and what are we trying to do? That was like the eureka moment to start, but it also kind of keeps me going, just to try to spread that message.
Yeah, and I think James said that really well. So I don't have too much more to add, but there have been times where we've gotten, just when we give it to our friends and they've liked it, our family, they've liked it. I remember the moment when Koji came to our distillery when we made our first distillate, and he was obviously surprised what came out from like basically newbies in the distilling industry. And the past year we won we got a gold in the Georgia Spirits Awards. And the moment when we were talking to the other distillers there and the other judges there, it just as they told us about what they liked about it, it started really clicking. Because as I don't know if James has this, but as an Asian American, I often have that imposter complex. I think that's what it's called. And we are new to this, and while we are confident in what we're doing, it's still hard to say. I know my spirit is amazing, right? I just know personally I do like it, but as we're going into market and more people giving us feedback, is getting to that moment. I guess we haven't really had that eureka moment yet, but I feel like we're moving toward that direction.
Yeah, there's nothing more exciting than obviously seeing others enjoy your product. I think that is the eureka moment where you realize, oh, I did something good. Other people like it. And, it's good to see that feedback. So my next question is there a ritual or habit that has contributed towards your creative process?
On my side, I'm just kind of like all over the place. I love reading. I'm kind of one of those people that goes deep dive into everything. So as I'm diving into the history and also spirits in general, and also learning about how to combine flavors and stuff, I guess it's almost like a mad scientist way, where I just get as much information as possible and try things here and there, and just trying to not be afraid of failure. Again, that's another one of those like imposter syndrome things, and just go ahead and do it. It's amazing things have come out of that. Let's say there's times where we're like, is this really going to work? And then forget all the doubts and everything, go ahead and try it. And some stuff has come out of it that's been extremely successful for us on our end.
Does the showering count as a ritual?
I mean, is it a cold plunge? Is it? Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something new that everyone is diving deeper into.
No, just regular old-fashioned showers for me. No, I think we've been fortunate just to have a lot of creative people come into, our mix. And so I, tend to lean on them for the creative aspects of it. For me, I just can't stop thinking all the time. So just getting in the shower and just kind of letting your mind, race about ideas and stuff like that. It just there's always something that seems to pop up, I guess, while I'm showering, and then I'll shoot it to Ming, and like, half of them might be like decent ideas and half of them might just be like dumb ideas, but we'll just try it, see what happens, and then go from there.
No, James, I appreciate that. I think between showers and sleep, right? Giving our brain a rest, time to, I can't help myself, distill all of the information that you just put into it is so important. I was reading an article about people forest bathing, and now Atlanta and other cities are investing more and more in their trail system to encourage people to be outside, to have a path to walk, bike, run, rollerblade, etc. I feel like we all need a little bit more fresh air and downtime from all the beautiful technology that's in front of us.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a perfect segue to my next question, which is about technology. How are you leveraging technology in your business?
So we're from technology backgrounds, right? Like I'm from IT. James has done IT work and engineering work too. First, using the internet for this vast amount of knowledge. There's forums of basically alcohol distilling nerd. ADI has a big forum, using that to contact people and learn. Again, being wholehearted about what we want to do, and reaching out to people and being humble about it has really helped us get a lot of information that probably would have taken years to have just done ourselves and figured it out. That has been amazing. We've actually had used like some AI ChatGPT to help some of our like marketing language and strategy even, just because there's, again, to be able to search that much of the internet and combine it into digestible pieces, it would take mass amount of time usually, but that's helped there. Instagram, again, for marketing purposes of reaching out to people. I mean, it's just amazing how much, if you spend the right time on it, how many people you can reach and contact and learn about your stuff just from mostly a free, resource. So, and then like we've used technology in terms of like doing research on our distillate too, and trying to figure out how to tweak it and make it better, especially as we're going into making makgeolli, which is the rice wine, rice beer product, which is a very wild product. So learning the parameters and what's in it and how to utilize it best will help us make a better product overall. So yeah, we try to tackle as much technology as possible, just because there's a lot of ways you can use it to kind of help not shortcut things, but speed things up.
Great tool.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if it comes through on the Zoom, but Ming and I are huge nerds since the beginning. And so, we will never lose that nerdiness. And so, Ming alluded to it, but the ferments and the distillates that we do, we have some, hardware that helps us track a lot of this stuff to very specific parameters that we put forward. So we, wanted to kind of make sure that our process was repeatable and had the high quality and everything like that. So in terms of actually, like temperature control, ferment control, all that stuff, we utilize a lot of technology for that. And so as much as distilling is an art and a flavorful aspect of it, like we try to inject as much nerdiness as we can to make it more like a big science project than anything else, right? So I think that helps us with a lot of our consistencies and our processes and stuff like that. So the nerdiness has helped.
Nerds roll, yes. I appreciate that. So I'm curious, you guys landed in Doraville, which I love as an international hub for Atlanta. Anytime anyone's coming to visit me, I say, oh, we got to go to Buford Highway. And then sometimes we just continue further north into Duluth, because oftentimes there's not a sign that has English on it. And I love it because it gives you the opportunity to explore different cultures and cuisines. So tell me a little bit more about why Doraville as home base.
Yeah, I think that was a very easy decision for us. Like I mentioned, like I was born in Atlanta. I lived here my entire life. I've driven up and down Buford Highway, no exaggeration, probably a million times in my life. And so a lot of my earliest sort of childhood memories is, obviously, like you mentioned, Buford Highway is a very, very important area of the Korean immigrant story in Atlanta. Like the first Korean supermarket I remember being down the road from there. And so when we kind of had the opportunity to look for spaces, we made a concerted effort to go to Doraville just to kind of close that loop. It just felt a little poetic to kind of plant our flag there, where we grew up. And so, we want to show that obviously the first generation immigrants came, started their businesses there. A lot of them moved on, but now, the second generations can kind of move in, kind of plant their flag, grow their roots, and start a business there. And so we want to keep that going. And I do want to give a shout out also to the folks at the city of Doraville. They have, there's this misconception that a lot of governmental agencies can be hard to work with, but I do want to give a quick shout out to the folks at Doraville. When we approached them about this project, they've been very helpful to us. So that was actually another reason why we wanted to kind of to go there as well.
Yeah, I think James
was jumping in. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I think James worded that extremely well. I mean, there's also the elephant in the room that Doraville is slowly getting gentrified, just like everywhere else in that area. So that was another reason why we wanted to plant our stake in the ground, to be, again, like a not a buffer, but a representation of what the next generation can do to help keep it as diverse as it was as we grew up, and as a place that, people from our backgrounds can go and feel familiar and get the food that we love, and, see things that we saw as we grew up, and embrace the area too. So
as long as Stoneville stays, I am A-okay. It's my favorite place. So what advice would you give to someone who is looking to follow in your footsteps?
I I think for me, it's a pretty generic answer, but I think it rings true for a lot. Probably every single business owner, entrepreneur is to kind of figure out your why of why you're trying to do it. I touched on it briefly before, but yeah, there have been many, many late nights that Ming and I have spent in the distillery, just, doing a lot of stuff. And if you kind of don't have that sort of guiding why you're doing it, a lot of that stuff can get old pretty fast. And so when you kind of think about what can sustain you over the long run of why you're doing it, and maybe, day by day, we have good days and we have days where nothing happens, and you kind of think about, why are we doing this? Like, do we just waste all our time and our money and our efforts and everything? And then something might happen that kind of triggers you and kind of reminds you of like, oh yeah, that's why, that's a win there. I think that if you can kind of figure that out early and just kind of hold on to that, I think that might sustain you for a lot longer than you might think.
Yeah, from my side, I feel like, we've been given a lot of times the advice of it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. Especially in the area that we're in, it's a hard game because of the different laws that are around selling and making alcohol in Georgia. So you're not going to all instant be overnight to success. That's almost impossible. It's all about relationships, figuring out your market, and taking the time to grow that market to the size that you want to be in the future. And as James said, you need that why to help drive you through and past that. One thing I would say is, don't ever be afraid to reach out to people. You'll be amazed at who is willing to help. You're going to get like a ton of rejections, but you'll find the people that will want to help, and those are the people that would really stick with you and work with you along the way anyways. So don't be afraid, be honest, humble, reach out, help where you can too, and you'll find people to be in that, kind of that tribe that will be with you as you're growing.
Goes back to our earlier conversation. It's all about good karma. So where can our listeners get more information about you and the company?
Yeah, our website is minhwaspirits.com. Our main avenue that we've been trying to use for social outreach is Instagram. So at Minhwa Spirits, Ming and I check messages all day, every day. So if anybody sends us a message, rest assured that we will see it. So yeah, our email address is also on our website. So be sure to follow Instagram for updates. We've got a lot of really exciting things coming. So hopefully people can follow our updates there.
Big thank you to both of you this morning for sharing such valuable information about the beverage industry. Be sure to check out their offerings. Keep an eye on their journey as they continue to quench our thirst in such inspiring ways. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, keep sipping on success and stay refreshed with more stories from leaders and innovators.
Hey, my name is James Kim, and you're listening to Hustle and Heart.